Welcome to the Somatic Coaching Academy podcast. I'm Ani Anderson.
And I'm Brian Trzaskos. Join us as we explore the science
and art of trauma-sensitive somatic practices and tools.
Strengthen your practice as a coach, therapist, or holistic professional.
Master the art of motivating even the most challenging clients when you understand how to tap into and unlock your client's complete holistic intelligence.
If you want to learn the most cutting-edge, research-supported skills for personal and professional mastery, you've come to the right place. Let's get this conversation started.
Hi, and welcome to the Somatic Coaching Academy podcast. We are on episode 147 today.
We're getting there, 147 today. Ani, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing great. Super excited.
Good. Me too. Back at the podcasting.
Back at some podcasting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What are we talking about today?
Well, today we're talking about whatever challenge you have in your life, whether it's a physical challenge around physical, let's say pain or something like that, whether it's a mental, emotional challenge that you're having, or whether it's a challenge, you might say a spiritual challenge you're having, that if you want the best place to start, let's say, the best place to start and optimize for getting or improvements in any of those levels is all the same thing. It's all the same place.
Well, I'm really appreciating, Brian, how simple you're making complex issues right now. You know, if you have any problem in any area of your life, start here. One of the bits of feedback that I keep getting over and over from Manifestation for Dummies that is out with Wiley Press in all the online bookstores and all that stuff is how practical the information is. So thanks so much for people who are leaving reviews and sending those to us and stuff. That's one of the things people keep saying is how practical it is. And it sounds like this is going to be a very practical podcast.
Very practical and very kind of like, let's get some science cooking here. So get out your notebooks, your pens, your paper, your glasses, whatever else you need to just nerd out a little bit here on the idea and the topic of chronic tension. And you might say, wait, okay, we've heard you talk about this before. I don't need this podcast, but halt, wait a second, hang in here because we're going to do a deeper dive into every one of the areas in which chronic tension has a deleterious effect in your life.
How long are we going to be here?
We're going to be here a little while. Look at my notes.
Oh my gosh. Is that all for
No.
this one? Oh my gosh, that's a lot of notes, y'all. Like, get comfy.
Okay, so get comfy. You ready? Let's jump in.
I was going to make a joke, but you better get started.
Hopefully your tension isn't like too tense about this.
I'm getting tense looking at your notes.
Let's think about chronic tension, people. Chronic tension, it affects you on all three levels of your existence, of your human existence. You exist on a body level in this human plane, okay? You exist on a mental, emotional level in this human plane. You have some connection, whether you realize it or not, on some spiritual level, whether you embody spirit or whether you think spirit's inside you, outside you, whether you go to church to find spirit, like it doesn't matter. There's some type of connection with you and the spiritual realm of existence. And so you have connection with every one of those areas, and chronic tension is getting in the way of you fully experiencing health in every one of those areas. And we're going to look at the science of that today.
Awesome.
All right. So we're going to dig in. So Ani, when you think about chronic tension and physical stuff, what comes to mind for you?
Shoulders and neck.
Shoulders and neck.
That's where I get.
That's where you hold your tension.
That's where I get.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's just me, right? Like different people hold chronic tension different places. And I think that chronic tension isn't something people recognize until it's knocking on their door.
Until it's screaming.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
you and I spend a lot of time with preventative measures to stay well in our tissue. Not a lot of people do that. You know, a lot of people don't do anything about their body until it's causing them a real problem.
Causing them a real problem, right? And so let's look at chronic tension in the physical body on three levels, three primary areas, let's say: musculoskeletal, nervous system, and the endocrine and immune function, okay? Because that's all like physical body stuff. Now, I think the musculoskeletal level probably makes a lot of sense for people. How does chronic tension negatively impact your musculoskeletal health? Well, the first way is think about when your muscles are chronically contracted, and you can do this little experiment right now, is squeeze your hand, make a fist, and squeeze it as hard as you can for just like 3, 4, 5, 6 seconds. Now open it up and look at your palm. And most likely your palm is white and then it blanches back to red. So that white is lack of blood flow or loss of blood flow. So when you have a muscle squeezing, you are squeezing out blood flow. So no blood going in, no blood going out. That means no or limited amounts of oxygen going in, and you're not getting nutrients delivered to the tissues. Whatever that you're eating and digesting isn't getting into the muscular tissues or whatever the muscles are squeezing around, number one. Number two, it can't get waste products out. So all of the waste that is being built up in the muscles, because it takes energy to keep a muscle contracted. So you're squeezing it, you're creating ATP, right, as a part of byproduct of metabolic respiration, but you're also creating a bunch of metabolic waste products also that are now getting soaked up into the tissue and toxifying the tissue. So two bad things happen. You lose circulation in, no oxygen, no nutrients, and you lose circulation out, which means that you're building up waste and toxins in the tissue with chronic tension.
It's like not taking out the trash.
Not taking out the trash, right? It's just like you're just loading up with trash. And that leads to soreness, fatigue, weakness, lack of ability to build and strengthen muscle. We've been talking amongst ourselves, but like when you get older, it's important to start, building muscle, because muscle tends to get lost as you get older. But listen, if you're carrying around chronic tension, it's really hard to build muscle when you have chronic tension. Just right there. Now you also build what we call fascial adhesions. So the connective tissue that wraps around the contractile tissue, that connective tissue gets bound up and it gets adhesed. And then all of a sudden you end up with joint limitations. You can't lift your shoulders up over your head. Your elbows are tight. Your knees are stiff. All those kinds of things are also byproducts of chronic tension. Joint compression, that leads to joint compression. Talking about knee replacements, hip replacements, shoulder replacements, whatever other kind of meniscal damages in your knees or labral injuries in your shoulders. A lot of this stuff is byproducts of poor biomechanics because of chronic tension in the body, just being held, and then the joints can't work in the way that they're supposed to work.
I just want to say for listeners who are like, this doesn't apply to me because I don't have, I can lift my arms over my head. Like, hang on there, because any problem you're having, Brian's getting to it.
I'm getting into it, right? So this is just the musculoskeletal part.
I know some people are like taking notes on everything you're saying, and other people are like, I don't know if this applies to me. Yes, it does.
Keep listening. And then finally, a decreased ability to produce power in your muscles. So as you age, I have a little saying that people don't get weaker when they get older, they get stiffer when they get older. Stiffness is the primary problem. People end up getting stiff and tight, and that's because of chronic muscle tension. And the stiffer and tighter people are, you're actually less able to contract muscles as well for as large ranges, which means you reduce your capacity to create power as you get older. And so the weakness is a byproduct of stiffness. And the stiffness is a byproduct of, drum roll please, chronic muscle tension. Okay, so that's a download. That's just musculoskeletal stuff. Just let's look at nervous system for a second. So nervous system, we're talking about sensors in your body. Now, when you have chronic tension in your body, of course, you have neural sensors all through the body, and they're invested in and through not only the skin, but in through the muscles and the organs as well. So whenever you have chronic muscle tension, what happens is you sensitize what we call nociceptors. Now, nociceptors are not pain receptors per definition, but really what they are is they do bring danger information into the brain about tissue damage. So the more chronic tension there is, those threshold sensors actually go down. So what it means is then you need something smaller to happen in your life in order to activate sensors that your brain could interpret as being pain. So that's kind of the technical phrase. In layman's terms, although layman's terms isn't totally accurate, your pain threshold lowers. That's what basically happens is something that if you didn't have chronic tension happen, you twist your ankle, versus if you did have chronic tension, twist your ankle. With chronic tension, you're going to say, this hurts way more.
It just reminds me, if I'm like really feeling tense, little things bother me.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, you're just more sensitive, right? So, and that's going to kind of bridge into the mental emotional realm also. But our body is full of sensors, and whether we are picking up or interpreting that as a physical sensation, that means there's a physical problem, or whether we're picking up this sensory information as being a mental emotional problem, sensors still are always filling our brain's capacity to determine what's going on in the world from either a physical, mental, emotional, or even spiritual level, right? We did that really cool podcast on our sensations, the link between all three levels of existence. If you haven't heard that one, go back and listen to it. It's one of my favorites. It was really, really good. Okay, so what else we got? Autonomic dysregulation. So sustained chronic muscle tension activates the sympathetic nervous system. It activates the fight or flight system. And this keeps the body in a low grade level of stress. So one of the best ways to keep yourself in low grade levels of stress is to have chronic tension. And then the low grade levels of stress create more chronic tension, more low grade levels of stress, okay? And the other thing that happens is disrupted proprioception. So proprioception are your joint sensors, like around your ankles and your knees and your hips. And they're all the sensors in the body that when you close your eyes, you still know where your weight is and what the level of the floor is underneath you and all that kind of stuff. So chronic tension disrupts that information of proprioceptive information. So now with chronic tension, you're sending faulty information from the joints up into the brain, and then your brain makes poor decisions based on that, which means you're more likely to fall, trip on the stairs, fall basically is the big one sort of thing, right? But also reach in ways that are not comfortable or appropriate and all those kinds of things. You're just not getting clean information. So that's the nervous system just in a nutshell. All right, what about the immune system and the endocrine system? Again, chronic tension, everybody. Elevated cortisol. This goes back to that sympathetic nervous system fight or flight situation. That chronic tension is both a symptom and a driver of what we call the HPA axis, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, which is in the brain, a set of neurohormone gland networks that again activate stress. So chronic tension creates cortisol, which creates the HPA axis stress response, which just keeps the whole cycle going again and again and again. Okay. All this also leads to systemic inflammation. How many times have you heard about inflammation? You got to get your inflammation down in your body. Chronic inflammation is the root cause of all chronic disease. Every chronic disease is associated with chronic inflammation. There's not a single disease that doesn't have chronic inflammation as being a part of it. Chronic inflammation is caused by, well, one of its causes is by chronic tension in the system. So if you want chronic inflammation, get some chronic tension. You'll be chronically inflamed all the time. Okay. So, and then one more thing is too, what we call immune suppression. So higher levels of cortisol, which is associated with chronic tension, actually dampens the immune system responses. So you're more likely to get sick, more likely to have diseases that are associated with immune imbalances. Again, all because of chronic tension. Whew.
Moral of the story, you got physical problems, work on your chronic tension.
Yeah, basically, that's it. So those are the three key areas: musculoskeletal, nervous system, endocrine, and immune system. Wow, that was just one of the levels of existence that you live on.
That's complicated.
Why don't you do a little introduction for mental emotional on it while I get a drink of water here? Holy cow.
You just like to talk about ATP and
I do.
AP, HP axes and blah, blah, blah. I used to remember all those things.
All right. So let's tap into mental emotional. So if you have mental emotional challenges, struggles, issues, tendencies, whatever it happens to be.
Guess what?
Chronic tension. Check out your chronic tension, because when you have chronic tension, again, the muscles are tight, they're chronically tight, which happens through reflexive. How do you know if chronic tension actually is one question that we should answer? Okay. How do you know it's chronic tension?
How do you know, Brian?
Because I'm sure when you worked in massage therapy, Ani, I'm sure you saw this, that people came into the clinic with chronic tension, and they're like, my neck hurts, my back hurts, my whatever hurts, and you're like, great, go ahead and lay down on the table. And they lay down on the table, and the muscles are still tense, even when they're not using them. to stand up. Like they don't need the muscles anymore. They're laying down on a table, but the muscles are still tense. And then you might say something like, relax your neck, relax your back. And they're like, what are you talking about? I am relaxed. And you're poking it and it's like a brick wall. And you're like, ah. So if you cannot consciously relax the muscle, then it's chronic tension. That's how you know. If it's activated when you don't need it to be activated and you can't consciously relax it, it's chronic neuroreflexive tension.
That's good.
Right? And that's going to result in all these issues that you're having here. Okay. So when you have that chronic tension that you're not under control of anymore, it's your subconscious now contracting your muscles below your level of conscious awareness, you get what we call interoceptive disruption. So we talked a lot about interoception. Interoception are the senses in your gut organs that bring information up in your brain, primarily around your emotions. Like how do you construct emotions is through these interoceptive pathways, right? Look like you want to say something.
Did you know that your gut brain has as many neurons as a Yorkshire Terrier?
As a Yorkshire Terrier?
Yeah.
Like
the whole thing. The whole thing? Yorkshire Terrier.
So you have a Yorkshire Terrier in your gut brain?
That's how many neurons you have in your gut brain.
Sam's a Yorkshire Terrier.
Yeah.
Cool.
I pulled that out of somewhere recently.
Did you recently?
Thought you would like that.
Like Trivial Psychic? You got a little trivial? Trivial stuff there?
I was just thinking about how you could be an SNL skit right now.
Yeah, that's good.
Chronic tension.
Chronic tension. Chronic tension, everybody. Okay, so back to this for a second. When you have that chronic tension, it distorts your interoceptive sensors, pathways, and interpretations. Much to your point, when you have chronic tension, everything else irritates you.
Oh, right.
Right? So,
totally.
So the same thing that happens every single day becomes really irritating when you have chronic tension. And so emotionally, it becomes really irritating when you have chronic tension. That's because the chronic tension is distorting or amplifying the interoceptive input and making it more sensitive.
Yeah, it's like you got chronic tension. Why are the kids so much louder?
Right. Yeah. When I have chronic tension, they're so much louder, which actually leads to the next thing around anxiety amplification. So what the studies and research shows is that for people who have anxiety, when they are experiencing higher levels of chronic tension, guess what? They have more anxiety with more chronic tension because there's a loop, again, in the mental, emotional, and the physical interoceptive pathways are looping. And when they get wound up, it creates more anxiety, which is a lot of that wound up kind of energy that is very difficult or not being dissipated.
Not being dissipated.
It's not being dissipated.
Exactly.
And why can't it be dissipated? Because it's stuck in chronic tension.
tension.
Okay, you guys are getting it now. You're getting it now. Okay, what about fatigue and cognitive load? Well, maintaining chronic tension is expensive because you're contracting. And by the way, just wasting it. It's like just flushing money down your toilet. The best way to just flush your money down your toilet with your body is by holding chronic tension. Because it's just accumulating, squeezing. It takes energy to do that, but it's not gaining you anything at all. So just practice now squeezing your hand as hard as you can for the next hour. I'm just kidding. But if you were to try that, like, is that gaining anything at all? No, but you're wasting a lot of energy, aren't you? And so that's going to create fatigue, cognitive overload, and it's going to deplete energy reserves over time.
Well, I don't know anyone who doesn't want to be more clear, more focused, more productive, more energized. So that seems like a really pretty simple fix.
Yeah.
Chronic tension.
Chronic tension. Like if you want to stop leaking energy, chronic tension. Okay. One more. Lactic acid. Boy, there's some interesting research around lactic acid. That lactic acid is a byproduct of, guess what? Chronic tension. So when you have more lactic acid in your bloodstream, that is associated with higher levels of anxiety. There's a kind of a historical research that was done on people with chronic anxiety, and they found out that their blood lactate levels were higher than people without anxiety. So then what they did is they injected lactate into the blood of people without anxiety, and they found out that they got anxiety almost immediately from being in. So blood lactate has some type of relationship with elevating anxiety, except guess what? In people who exercise regularly.
Oh, right.
Right? So think about exercise, regular exercise does. It lowers chronic tension. So when you're dissipating energy, again, we're talking about, like we talked about with anxiety, you actually, you don't have as profound an impact around the lactic acid, blood lactate levels in anxiety situations. But chronically tense, under-exercised people have a lower lactate threshold for anxiety activation.
That's interesting. Wasting energy isn't the same as dissipating energy.
Mm-hmm. Do tell.
Well, you're talking about how it's a waste of energy to stay contracted. But dissipating energy, which like you might think is like throwing it out, is actually not a waste of energy.
No, it's not a waste of energy because our bodies are like batteries. And our bodies have to bring energy in and let it go out. Bring it in and let it go out.
Got to keep it flowing.
Got to keep it flowing. It's like being constipated, right?
It's a waste to keep it.
If your energy is constipated, it's not good for anything, right?
Yeah, I just think that right there, like metaphorically, is a big deal because people have trouble letting things in and letting things out, like, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Okay, keep going.
Okay, so we've tackled so far chronic tension and the deleterious effects in your physical health. We've talked about it in your mental emotional health. Now, that's not even the fun part. The fun part.
We aren't even having fun yet.
We're not even having fun yet. We're going to talk about the correlations with chronic tension and your spiritual health.
Okay.
Wow. Check this out. This was so fun to research. This is so great. So Edmund Jacobson, let me tell you the story of Edmund Jacobson.
Okay.
He was the founder of progressive muscle relaxation.
I hope whatever happened to him wasn't like the guy with the hand washing.
No, different. Yeah, much different.
If you haven't heard that podcast about if it's not woo, jeez.
Yeah, go back and catch that one. Sometimes woo is not untrue. All right, so Edmund Jacobson was the originator of progressive muscle relaxation. And so if you don't know this practice, it's where you go section by section through your body and you contract, relax, contract, relax, contract, relax. So that, and the practice of contracting, relaxing in sequential progressive manner has been shown to down-regulate this reflexive chronic muscle tension. And we do this in our core centering program. We teach people how to start this in core centering and then level 1 and level 2 programs and some of our other practices as well. So it's pretty well-known practice, but here's the deal. What he noted when he had people do this is that people would regularly have what they would call spiritual experiences.
Oh, interesting.
Simply and there was no spiritual connotation at all. It was contract your foot, relax your foot. Contract your foot a little more, relax your foot a little more. Contract your leg, relax your leg. Contract your thigh, relax your thigh. Contract, right? It was just like going through sequentially through the body and relaxing it. And people would consistently have spiritual experiences. What he would describe it as a dissolution of the habitual sense of self and time. People would have a dissolution of the habituated sense of self and time. And so he saw chronic tension as the physiological substrate of worry and mental chatter.
Oh, I like that.
He saw the chronic tension as the physiological substrate of worry and mental chatter. And relaxing it quieted not just the body, but the mind's narration system.
So it's like chronic tension is like the physical manifestation of worry and chronic chatter in your thoughts.
The ceaseless monkey mind, people would say, right?
Yeah.
So, but it's a two-way street because if you want to quiet the monkey mind, what you do is you quiet the body mind, right? Quiet the muscle tension down, and it has a predictable response in quieting the mental chatter.
Which makes perfect sense for people who are trying to calm the mental chatter, but they don't do anything with their body, and then they sit down, and it's super frustrating, and their tension, and all of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if you calm your body, then you can calm the negative chatter, or the mind chatter.
Yeah, and most people try to calm down their mind chatter by thinking about their mind chatter,
right?
Which actually just makes it
worse.
Chronic tension, chronic tension. Okay, let's go to Herbert Benson now. So Herbert Benson wrote the classic book, The Relaxation Response, in the 70s. And what Herbert Benson showed is that by doing practices such as progressive muscle relaxation and other somatic practices, that he was able to trigger in people a self-induced altered state of consciousness, characterized by these things: a decreased metabolic rate, heart rate, and sympathetic activity, reports of self-transcendence and felt unity. And he also described in Science Direct as the state where the experience of self-transcendence may help one to cope with difficulties.
But he wasn't going at the work trying to get that. Right?
No, he wasn't going
that
at
was
that.
Just
he was just trying to
side
show
effects.
how to, he was originally was studying meditation, transcendental meditation.
Oh.
But what he showed is that when you actually did these formalized practices around reducing chronic muscle tension, people would experience predictably transcendent states of consciousness.
So it's kind of like the other guys. They kind of found similar things.
Stuff. Yeah, he was building a bit on Jacobson's work. Okay, now check this out. Let's fast forward a little bit. 2024, not too long ago.
That was just 2 years ago.
Just 2 years ago. There is a research study done and in mindfulness. Mindfulness is the name of the journal. And this was a Harvard study done. Harvard study published in Mindfulness, surveying over 3,000 adults in US and the UK. And 45% of them reported altered states of consciousness from non-pharmacological practices, including relaxation, yoga, tai chi, qigong, breath work, meditation.
Only 45%.
45%.
Huh?
But check this out. That far exceeded the 5 to 15% who just practiced seated meditation.
Jeez, yeah.
So this just
Totally.
talk about this again. For people who practice seated meditation, 5 to 15% of them report a transcendence experience, but 45% of people who do body-centered practices to reduce chronic tension report a transcendent experience.
Jeez.
Let's just kind of lock in on that for a second, okay? And so what were these experiences that people reported? Derealization, right? Detachment from their environment. Unitive experiences of oneness, ecstatic thrills, body heat or electricity, out-of-body experiences, perception of non-physical lights activating. So what the lead author, Dr. Satchett, said in this Harvard study was that rather than being extremely unusual and rare, altered states of consciousness are a common variant of normal human experience.
Oh, I love that.
Right? They're not strange or weird. They're actually available to everyone, and potentially the fastest way to get to them in a non-pharmacological way is by reducing your chronic tension. Okay?
So you can reduce your chronic tension instead of going to take mushrooms or do LSD.
Exactly.
If you're trying to save yourself a few $1,000
and set it all up and all that kind of stuff.
and actually
right?
be able to reproduce it.
Yes. So just tapping in. Okay, one more thing we want to say about the default mode network. So people are like salivating right now. They're like, I love brain stuff. Like, just give it to me.
Give me the brain stuff.
Right. So the default mode network is the network in the brain that's a self-referential system. It's the part of the brain that's always paying attention to yourself, kind of like, and a lot of it is this subconscious narrative, self-reflective kind of state. What I need, what I'm thinking, what I have going on, what I have happening. It's all this mental chatter. It's all this autobiographical information that's happening all the time. And so what research on meditation, hypnosis, and psychedelics have shown is that deactivation of the default mode network correlates directly with mystical and spiritual experience. Specifically, ego dissolution, felt unity, and transcendence.
That makes sense.
Okay, reduce default mode network activation, and you all of a sudden you're not referencing yourself as an individual, egoic-driven being anymore. Deep muscle relaxation by down-regulating the sympathetic arousal and quieting interoceptive threat signals. Let's go back to what we were talking about in the physical thing and mental emotional, these interoceptive threat signals, removes a primary driver of default mode network activation. Chronic tension keeps the default mode network in a state of continuous low-level activation.
Wait, say that again?
Chronic tension keeps the default mode network in a state of chronic low-level activation.
That makes sense, because it's like, what about me? What about me? Me, me.
Exactly. And it's telling the body, right, that the brain is under threat. It's telling it all the time that it's under threat, even when it's not.
You know, one of the things that's going to do, I'm speaking from personal experience here, is it's gonna keep locking in, referencing, blaming, and projecting on other people, which is never going to help you to solve your problems.
Or reduce your chronic tension anymore.
Well, it's
it's a cycle, right?
Right, because you'll think it's out there.
And it's a threat. And it's a threat that's coming from outside, right?
Yeah,
that creates all the activation and more. Yeah. So in very practical terms, I don't know how much clearer we can say this. Chronic tension maintains self-consciousness. It maintains a consciousness, and releasing it can dissolve that level of self-consciousness.
Chronic tension is just causing all the problems, Brian.
That's why at the top of the podcast we said if you want to make the fastest effect in any area of life in your body is reduce the chronic. Start reducing chronic tension. It's going to have a positive impact somehow. Okay?
Just sitting here hearing about it, I gotta release my
roll
chronic
on a
tension.
Ball or go do some breathing exercises or go do something, right? So find ways to do that. You know, we do our core centering classes weekly here at the Somatic Coaching Academy.
You can do it with us.
You can do it with us in core centering classes and the somatic practices. You know, I mean, that's what it's all about. Our at the root level of somatic practice and work is reducing chronic tension, because it creates a positive impact in everything above that. And if you've been working for a really hard time, a really long time, let's say, to try to get your health in order, or your mental wellness in order, or a better spiritual connection, or you've been working to create anything new in your life that just haven't been able to create, and you are walking around with a lot of chronic tension, you know, you might be kind of swimming upstream. I guess you can't really swim uphill. Swimming upstream. You're swimming against the current.
I would say swimming uphill is a perfect
swimming uphill,
because you're actually looking in the wrong direction. Chronic tension.
Yeah. So if you want to turn it around, swim with the current and let your body and let the universe help you to create what is it you want to create in your life. The best thing that you can do on a daily basis is reduce your levels of chronic tension. I don't know how else we can say it. Physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. There you go.
We got to let them go, Brian. They've got stuff to do. They've got tension to release. Wow. Hope you loved this episode. Let us know. We'll see you next week.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to this episode. We hope that this conversation will help you improve your practice and change the way you think about your work, your clients, and yourself.
Continue your exploration of trauma-sensitive somatic coaching by listening to more podcast episodes at somaticcoachingacademy.com. You could be the trusted guide that people turn to help them with their most challenging situations and to reach their most precious goals. Thank you for joining us.
We'll see you next time.